Hey you guys, it's your girl Dash coming back to you from Real Takes. Today I'll be doing a review to a new show titled Siren. Just premiered this past Thursday. I'm excited. I've been waiting patiently for this particular show to come on board. It took a year, but worth the wait, I will say. I will be reviewing actually episode 1 and 2 because unbeknownst to me, we decided they already decided Freeform to show us both episode 1 and 2 back to back. So that was actually a treat. I didn't expect that. So I will definitely be doing both of them combined in this particular review. Now, I had discussed this previously when I did the most recent trailer, I think a week or so ago, where I had discussed this. It came out a year ago, and I kept keeping track of, okay, when it's going to show, because they didn't give an actual air date to show when it's coming. They just said the following year, but I didn't know what month of this year would be. So, of course, a couple of months ago, I found out it would be, in March. So that was great. So with that, also knowing that it's starring Lean Powell, who plays the character Ren, and then you have Alex Rowe, who is actually playing the lead character as well. His name in the show is Ben. So with that said, let me just go ahead and just jump right into it. I was excited because this is a show where it's going to be based around mermaids. Now, when I saw the trailer reaction to it, and I did, where it looks like it originates, it says Bristol Cove, Washington. So, of course, when it first starts, it shows some, fishermen, crew actually in the middle, of the night, doing, probably a regular, trip out to, bag fish, whatever, and all that. I'm not familiar with, the time aspects of how they do it, how they can get the most out of it if they do it at a certain time. So it was in the evening time when he showed it. And of course, all of them, it looks like a crew of what it could have been like 5 or 6 gentlemen. And with that, a situation happens where, unbeknownst at first, we don't know, but when they pick up one of their big selections with, their net, they get all these fish, but then they see something what looks to be a little bit larger than what they're used to for the amount of fish that they got, and come to find it was a mermaid. Now, in the midst of that, the mermaid tries to get away, causes some friction, all that. One of the guys gets hurt in it because he tried to go too close to it and gets a gash or whatever of blood. Now, they have no idea that this particular creature is being tracked. And of course, military shows up, helicopter slides down off of their cable and lets them know, we need to take this. And of course, the captain of that, ship, he was not having, he says, you're not to take what we've caught. This is our stuff. He says, well, and we have a injured man here as well. So, what are you going to do about that? So they tell him that they're going to take him as well. One of their crew members, his name was Chris, that was actually taken. So when they take them, they take the creature as well. They don't see it because they put it in some sort of, canteen large, crate thing, so it's not even visible to them, so they're not sure if it was a mermaid or what that they'd actually caught in their net. So when they take him and take Chris, the guys are just left there. One of his friends, his name is I want to say, if I'm not mistaken, it should be, I think, Xander or Ian. My apologies, I can't remember his name off the bat. But so it kind of goes into the next day where it shows them it's some sort of festival, Mermaid's Day, and all the women are walking around, mermaid garbs, and of course they do a play. Little kids are doing a play about mermaids, the story that they were told from the legend, whichever. Now, the woman who's across the street at her shop, her name is Helen. I think Helen Hawkins, she sees the people, she's sweeping up and everything and all that. And she's just kind of going on. She's kind of, taken aback, little do these people in this area know what really happened from the past. She's just kind of amused with it and whichever. Now, the night before, when the mermaid was caught, come to find out there was another mermaid, and that mermaid actually saw the ship, go like it was going back, sailing, going back to, to land. So eventually from there, it showcases, the character, Ben getting up, it shows him kind of going through the motions, doing what he's doing for his day, whichever, and all that. Now, you don't really know it, but Ben does come from a family that's very well known in the town. The town has some history with that particular family, and he kind of likes to keep himself, far away from the family. He doesn't want anything to do with it. He must have money, whatever, the amount of, information people know about them, how far his family reaches in the town, the company, everything within that town. So he just wants to live a low profile. He doesn't like that. Now, for him, he's just kind of doing his stuff. He does stuff with the fishermen guys, whatever, but he's kind of all about doing his own thing. You do get introduced to his girlfriend. Her name is Maddie. And she's a cool chick. She works at a marine base where she deals with, the seagulls, everything like that. She's learning about, the animals or whichever. So she kind of does that. She is kind of, a free spirit, if you will, whichever. Her father is a sheriff at the police department, so it's kind of just them two, whichever. You learn that her mother must have left, and she just left both her and her father and whatever. But of course, he's really wanting her, to keep the faith that her mom will come back, but she's kind of lost it because she does make that known in the episode, the first one, that it's been 8 months, whichever. So over time, there's a situation during the Mermaid's Day where his father, Ted Pound Hall, I think that's their last name, whichever, they have some kind of unveiling of a statue, which is of their ancestor who had a part in a situation that happened with the mermaids from what the legends are told. And of course, one of the sons is missing, which is Ben's character. He, like I said, nothing to do with that. So, he's kind of doing his own thing. So in the midst of that, all of a sudden, Ren, she finds her way onto land, whichever, and all, like, he's driving back and he comes into contact with her. And of course, she's naked, whichever, and all that. She falls out, she loses, her, bearings, whichever. He takes her back to his place and all that, tries to help her. She's clothed, whatever. He decides to call the doctor, the town doctor. By then, she's too scared because at first they have a moment where it's actually, you can see he's trying to engage her and she kind of feels safe. She doesn't feel he's a threat at first. Then he's trying to make her speak. She doesn't kind of take up a language. She doesn't know what to say at first. So from there, she starts to have this little humming sound of this, like, song or something. She sings some sort of, melody to him, and he becomes lightly entranced. That's when he hears the door. He goes to get it. Comes to find it's the doctor. She's too scared. She leaves. So he doesn't know where she's gone. So of course, next day you see Helen sweeping, the sidewalk, whatever, and she comes up to her, just kind of looking at her and whatever and all that, and she's just like, oh my gosh. By then he's looking for her, searching for her, and he turns, make a U-turn, notices that she's gone, and he's like, you were talking to her. He's like, I don't, know who that is. I don't know what you're talking about. So if Helen does know what's going on, she does know who she is, what she could be, what she is actually, but doesn't want to let on. So from there, it shows her walking. She's walking down an area that looks like an area where it's like some trailers or whatever, some trailer parks, and she comes across, like a little kind of hoodie. She puts it on, whatever. She comes across this, little boy, playing whatever and all, and hence she sees the TV. She catches what it's saying and hears him say, hi, Ren, whatever, this is this. It's the little boy. He turns around and catches her, but then of course she, runs away. So from there, she comes across the man. She took the little toy that she was kind of looking at, abundance to hint the little boy or whatever. And this older gentleman decides he wants to take it upon himself. She doesn't know. She's introduced her, say, hi, I'm Ren, whichever, for verbatim off of the TV. Goes about that part. Then it shows her getting to the car, all enamored of the car, doesn't know what this thing is, what is this contraption, and he thinks, oh, she's lost, she needs to go somewhere. So he decides to oblige himself to take her. As you all know, in the trailer, it shows him talking to her. He's like, oh, you're this, I know mommy teaches you not to, talk to strangers, but, you don't seem like you can talk. And then he pulls over to the side trying to, have a little small talk. And she's just kind of going along with it because she doesn't know what he's doing. She doesn't have any clue until he decides to come on to her. And that's when she feels he's a threat. And then, of course, slashes his neck and then knocks him out of the window. So if you saw in the trailer, that's him bloody on the top of the hood of his own vehicle. And she gets out, takes the hood off with the blood and whatever. And then eventually she finds her way back to Ben's actual place. And then that's when he sees her, whatever, he tries to help her. And, of course, you see the part where the girlfriend shows up because he sees her bruise on her arm, these other things, whatever. And he's like, this is the person I told you I found, whatever. And she's like, okay. And she's like, well, let me get back to work, whatever. Because at first she was going to help him. He's like, no, go ahead and take care of that, whatever. And they have a little moment that Ren sees, whatever, where they're, have a little kiss. So she's kind of sees a little difference, in him compared to what she'd experienced with the gentleman. So from there, it shows him kind of, trying to get the doctor to come back, whatever. He's calling to see if she's, to see if he can come back, whatever. By then, she can kind of tell her body is going through some sort of change where she's dried out, she's coughing, whatever. She knows she needs to get back into the water. She goes into the water and she has her transformation. Now, I love the way they did the transformation with her. And then I love the part where you see her, her legs come together to make the fin. You see her back open up with, extra fins. You see her nails come out, her teeth. She has experiences like the pain. I don't think of the transformation because you hear her screaming. I don't know if that's a call or whatever, but then you hear the seagulls that get called or whatever, and you see him turn around and he realizes she must have went into the water, so he jumps into the water trying to search for her, and then that's when he finds her. And then in the water, there's a little difference, and Helen does bring this up to him later on that your father, there's some things you don't know about, your history. You need to ask your family, whichever, they slaughtered mermaids back in the day, because she knows she's considered like a folklore expert of understanding, the past. And at first he doesn't want to believe it because of course his friends meet up with him at a bar earlier in the episode asking him these questions, tell him what we saw. And at first they're afraid to tell him, a couple of the friends don't mind. Then there's other ones who are like, we shouldn't involve him. He's not one of us, whichever. And from there, that's when he realizes it was true. It is mermaids. And she kind of, becomes very forceful with him within the water, that he has to fend her off with some sort of spike to stop her from trying to basically almost try to kill him. And from there, she kind of gets away or whatever and all that. He goes kind of, wondering where she's searching whatever and all that. The next morning you see that she's not in the water, she's in the grass, covered up a little bit. She's nude again and whichever. But there's a scene where he's having a bonfire with the friends on or whatever, and you see a little kid in the water and all that, unbeknownst to him that a mermaid was just past him. When they find the cut up shark, him and his girlfriend, he doesn't know at the time, what they can consider that to be, but his friend does. He says there was something out there. You don't want to believe me, but there was. So when he goes back to his friend, and at the time, he's like, don't shoot, whatever. He takes his father and them, they go out on the boat to see if they can find another one, because they feel like whatever they found, if they can find another one, then they can use that and maybe, they'll have something. But little do they know, the military has their own plans for him, because of course, the one that they caught, you don't know anything about her right now, so we don't know her name, whichever, even though in the casting it does verify her name, but we'll probably figure that out later on. She's, of course, another mermaid. Looks totally different than Ren. She's a mermaid. She's a black mermaid, beautiful mermaid. They have her locked up in some sort of little aquarium thing, whatever, and all, and they're trying to do testing, whatever, on her. She's a subject. So of course, government probably had an idea, and I'm really curious to see what they're going to figure out, how they came to know this was the area to come to. What made them think, okay, this mermaids, who let on this information that they might have known. So those are things I'm kind of interested in, wondering how they're going to do that. So the whole point of that episode, kind of how it ends, it shows the fisherman. It shows Ben with him and his friend and his father, and they're trying to find something they think is out in the water. So hence goes to pilot, episode. Second episode is called The Lure. It begins right at the end where they're getting ready to shoot a spike into the water, whatever, to see if they can, catch it. And Ben stops them. He's just like, what are you doing? It's like almost like you don't want us to catch it. It's like, you don't know if you want to catch it. You don't want to hurt it. We need it, whatever, so we can figure out what's going on, so, we can see what's happening. So at first they're thinking they can tell that it might be hurt because they hear some noise. It sounds like, the noise of, maybe a hurt, animal, the mermaid. So they're afraid to go in. So Ben just goes in the water. Come to find out, it's some sort of decoy with the sound of the mermaid that's actually been attached to the fisherman's boat. So they basically place that there with it and all that to see if they can lure some more, whichever. So he goes and he grabs it, whichever, and they take it back, to Xander's place, whatever. And they're like, we need to, understand this, whatever, not be hasty. We don't want to have an issue where they take, try to take this, or we end up, in government, hands. Case in point, Chris, their friend who had gotten hurt, still there. He is being drugged. They are, just not letting him go. They feel like he might have seen something. So basically they're trying to drug him so much to the point where, who knows, eventually when they stop drugging him, he might not remember anything, and then eventually they'll probably let him go. So from there, it just kind of shows the part where when he had an issue, with, finding, Ren, whichever, and he got scratched with him and all, he has not reached out to Maddie. Maddie has not been able to reach him. It's almost like she doesn't know, not to say he's avoiding her, but he's dealing with the situation with Ren, whatever and all, getting hurt, almost getting killed in the water. So of course he's at the shower. She shows up and she's like, what happened? And he finally shows her the cut, and he's like, I'm trying to find this girl, whichever and all that. I think she's a mermaid. And of course Maddie doesn't believe him, so eventually he has to show her the video. So he shows her the video and she's like, I'm sorry, I didn't believe you. I'm like, oh my goodness, what are we going to do? Come to find out, military's involved. She's like, this is a lot. The mermaids are involved, whichever. this is going to be a lot. So he's like, okay, well, we need to, figure out that little contraption I found with, Xander, whatever. He got his hands on it. They don't realize that until he gets back to his house and finds out somebody's been in the house and took it. Unbeknownst to them that it was actually Ben, but they think the government people, officials, military or government showed up and broke into the home. So from there, it shows him and Maddie going to reach out to Helen. By that time, Ren has found her way back. She starts to remember certain things. She knew how to get back to Ben's place. She finds Helen's store. She locks it. She lets her know, I'm going to help you, whatever. Because, of course, she decides to show her this little porcelain mermaid, little, figurine. And she's like, this is me. And then she's trying to explain to her, me and another. And she's like, oh, sister. So she's like, there's another one of you. Okay. She understands now that's the one that must have gotten, captured. That's why she's here, on land or whichever. So from there, she's like, okay, she tries to help her put some new clothes on. She tells her, okay, I need to get you some food because there's a scene where she's trying to eat and she's just does not like anything she's grabbing. So she's like, okay, you stay here. I'll help you, get some food. I'll help you to go, find your sister. So she locks her into one of the rooms so she'll stay put. And she does stay put for right now. That's when she goes to get a whole bunch of food. That scene is hilarious. She's ordering everything down to sardines, salmon, any type of fish, shrimp, anything she can that she knows she will love. By then she comes back. That's when, of course, Maddie and Ben show up with the little contraption. And they're just like, you need to hear this, whatever. And all of a sudden you see the scene between, of course, the flickering on the little sound where you can hear the voice of the Black Mermaid. And beknownst, there's the situation where she's being held against her will so they can inject some sort of needle into her to take a certain serum or something out of her bloodstream so they can use that to basically do some sort of analysis on her blood to get a better understanding, of her, how she worked, what's in her blood work. I don't know if they're trying to create something with this. We have no idea. Of course, over the next course of the episodes, hopefully we'll learn more about that because they literally put something around her neck and they had to use at least a good team of 3 military men on top of the female doctor just to hold her to get that syringe into her neck. Then you see the part where it keeps going back to that, then back to Ren, hearing the voice of her sister. She's freaking out and she starts throwing tables, whatever. That's when Ben and Maddie are like, okay, is everything okay? You're hearing noise that you lied and just said, Ren had been gone. So that's when they realize she was there. She comes out, she thinks her sister's in this small little contraption, but they had explained to her, no, it's not. This is just a voice. So when they turn it off, she kind of understands, but not really quite understands. Maddie gets to finally be introduced, sees Ren, and she's like, wow, she adapts, she understands, she starts saying words. She doesn't know a lot of words still, but she's learning. So from there, they say, okay, we need to meet up with the guys. We need to talk to them, whatever, and all that. So, of course, Ben meets up, goes to the, corner, whatever, little bar scene or whatever, and he sees the guys there and all that, and he has basically explained that he took the contraption. One of the guys doesn't particularly care for him. He tries to get into a fight, whatever, simple as he could be, whatever, because of course the whole time he's like, he's not one of us. No help at all in this whole episode, to be quite honest with you. Just a mouthpiece, negative the whole time. Nothing to help. It's Ben trying to do things, even though he was wrong about the way he did it. But then in the end, he let Xander know, here it is, I'm sorry. He goes back to the car. Now, before he gets to the car, Maddie and Ren have a little moment, and you can tell she's trying to learn her. She's sniffing her or whatever. You can tell Maddie is a little scared. She doesn't know this. She's afraid. We don't understand her. Even though she's out of the water, she's still considered a threat. So it's like they have to watch themselves and be very careful around her, just trying to get her to communicate. So from there, he comes back, he gets it, and she at first doesn't want to give it, but they're like, no, friend. And so she could, claws off so they could take it, give it back to him. He's like, but let me figure out who I have for connections to find out about, the Navy or whoever it was military-wise that actually took Chris, so they can get to the bottom and then try to figure out the signal and find a way to track it. So from there, they're like, Helen told them to make sure you bring her back, whatever, and all that. She'll be safe there. So in the midst of them, walking back, there's a scene where they're asking her, okay, what will you do once you find your sister? And she's like, will you go home? And at first she didn't answer, but then she turns and she's like, home. Like that's where we're going. We're leaving. So I know what I want to think is that Ben is, okay, you're going home. Where's home at? Is it just you two or is it more? So that's interesting. But the thing I do love is that, when he spoke with Helen, he wanted to understand more about, what do you know about this? Because you did have a moment you talked to her, you weren't very opening with telling me that. You kind of lied. Then she's like, speak to your father. He does go speak to his father, and his father's like, I heard some stuff from Helen. And of course, he just like, oh, no, I don't want to hear anything about that. But then he does explain to me, yeah, our grandfather, our, ancestors, he went through a moment, they considered him delirious, whatever he was talking about these things, he's like laughing off all about, mermaids, please, whichever. And of course, he's looking at him. Little does he know that his son does know they're real. It's not just, rumors and, folklore or whatever. It's real. And he just wanted to have a better understanding. He basically used his father. He's like, I'll hang out with you guys more and do things, like the unveiling of the statue if you tell me some things about our past. So that was the part that you got to see with him and his father. But basically, I'm really looking forward to learning more about the cast. The last scene that we did have towards the end was a scene where the Black Mermaid's still cascade, and it shows one of the guys who's in charge of the whole project with her, getting the sample, learning about her military involvement, recruitment, anything that needs. And he's like enamored of her. You do hear the lullaby with her and him. He's kind of entranced with her. He kind of walks up to the tank, but he doesn't come too close, whichever. But you can tell the light blue eyes that they have are very piercing when he's staring at her. And he's just like really in awe of her. So I'm kind of trying to understand what he's going to do in regards to that whole situation with them, as well, learning more about her. They're going to eventually let her go. It doesn't seem like it's going to happen anytime soon. But eventually, hopefully, Ren will find out where she's at. If Ben has any help in getting that handled and done so she can get back with her sister, so she can get back into the water and get away. But I will say, like I stated, I'm looking forward to seeing the situation with the Black Mermaid, learning more about Ren, her becoming more adaptable to the land, the coastal town of Bristol Cove, and then learning more about what Helen knows, and learning about them if they show them at a younger age, if we're going to get some flashbacks, and then knowing if there are more mermaids, or we're going to be introduced to more mermaids throughout this whole season. I don't know how many episodes this season actually is. I'll probably check that out, see if they at least note that in IMDb, because I'm curious myself. And I liked the first 2 episodes. I thought it was done very well. The CGI, like I said, on the transformation was really done really well, because I was wondering how the legs come together to make the fin. That was really done really nicely. Of course, her back, her knees, her teeth, and all that, the sequence of all of that, and just her mannerisms. I love the way Eileen Powell, who plays Ren, does her overall her behavioral, her mannerisms when she's walking, her, scoping out things, looking at things, just having something presented to her in the way she carries on when she sees something she's not familiar with and doesn't understand. I like how she caught on very quick to adapt when she was walking, and she had on her feet, and she cut herself on her foot, and she saw some like little rain boots, and she knew how to put them on. Same thing with clothing, kind of snipping it, looking at it, whatever. I'm really liking that part, and I'm looking forward to the other mermaids, seeing how she's going to adapt once she's out of that situation as well. Same thing with, Ren learning how to speak, watching TV, catching things, like just like how she picked Ren, just from listening to the sentence off that commercial, just like that. So, yeah, I see the potential so far, as long as the storyline is nice and steady, him learning more, seeing more, interaction with Ren and Helen, and then learning what these military, government officials are trying to do, how much more do they know, and they're not letting on, because I found it really interesting how they just showed up out of the blue, when the situation happened on the boat, Chris getting, cut, in his side, his stomach area, and they just, whisked down out of nowhere. So yeah, that's a lot that has to be said about what's happening, what are they not telling them, and hopefully with the amount of, cred that family has, Ben will be able to find out some things, and then they can move the story along, and hopefully it'll go at a nice pace where, we get the action, we get the story, and learn more about the characters. So, but with that said, you guys, I hope you all enjoyed my review, and just let you all know, when I do my review with this, I will most likely do them with spoilers. So I'm just going to be basically doing a full recap of the show. I won't keep anything, hidden out there. So when you all watch me from here on out with every episode, I will make sure that's noted at the beginning of the episode, so you won't have to worry about me saying at the end. But I'll note that in the description anyway. So with that said, you guys, I will see you on the next review, and you guys take care.